Hey, on my Travel Ones podcast today, I'm lucky to have Meryl Davis. How are you today, Meryl?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I so appreciate the time, tracking each other down. It's been awesome.
Yes, it's taken a second to align our schedules, but I'm excited we've been able to do that.
Oh, that's perfect. I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe you. I have a really hard time talking to people that are in their early 30s or, I think you retired in your late 20s.
Yeah.
So it's so weird to use the term of retirement.
It is. Yes, yeah. I am a retired competitive figure skater.
The NFL players I've talked to are like 25, 26, like almost the same age as my daughters. And they're like, yeah, I'm a retired NFL player. I'm like, hold on, you're 25, 26 years old.
It's a strange experience. Yeah, definitely going through that phase and sort of that transition of retiring, like you said, before you're 30 is, it's definitely an interesting one. And I'm lucky that I've been able to continue skating professionally. So I still skate frequently with my partner, Charlie, around the world. But yeah, retired from competition, and it's been challenging in some ways, but definitely an interesting adventure.
Yeah, so I'm not going to call you retired.
Sure.
I love the fact that you're really giving back now. You're the co-chair of figure skating in Detroit, which is near and dear to my heart because of my wife. And then, like you said, you're still skating. You're doing a lot of philanthropic stuff. When you were 5, here's my opening question. When you were 5 or 6, when you started skating, obviously you didn't go, man, I can't wait to start traveling the world through my ice skating.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, I was always fascinated by different cultures, and the idea of different people around the world living so differently as a result of, whether it was their location and sort of what they had access to, are they up in the mountains? Are they by the ocean? What language are they speaking? What kind of foods are they eating? And even before I totally understood, diversity of culture and sort of like where that came from, I was just fascinated by the idea that people lived so differently than the way that I did. And, growing up, my cousin and I would make up these languages, and as we were, walking through the mall with our moms or going to restaurants, we would just, break into these like random languages that we had just decided were more interesting than English.
than English, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that bug of just being interested in other ways of life it's something that always fascinated me.
See, I'm exactly the same way. I think that's why I enjoy the podcast where I get to talk to so many different people.
Absolutely.
Because I'm just naturally inquisitive about different things.
Yeah, I think it's a great quality. I'm appreciative of the interest, and I think it makes life a lot more exciting.
But, and is that why you got your degree in anthropology?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think in a nutshell, I had that interest, and I began really traveling internationally with skating. So I think probably I first traveled to Austria when I was maybe 14 or 15.
Okay.
Started going to Japan when I was around 16. And then I got to go to countries that not every sort of like Midwestern teenager gets to go to, like Serbia and, Romania, Slovenia, and some of those Eastern European countries. And it just continued to sort of fuel that flame I had, that interest of like, wow, like I didn't know it was possible to live this way and to have these kinds of buildings and what interesting food and all those things. And I started reading National Geographic. I think my dad gave the subscription to me, when I was in high school. And I just was always really drawn to the anthropologically focused articles. And I remember reading an article, probably, I want to say 2002 or 3. I was probably a sophomore or junior in high school. And it was about, this probably sounds crazy, but it was about bogmen and how bodies are preserved in bogs, and so you're able to understand more about the way that they live their lives and their societies and cultures as a result of the ability of the bog to preserve so many things that wouldn't otherwise be preserved if the body was in a different part of the world or in a different setting. And I found that so fascinating that you could get a glimpse into the way this person lived however many hundreds of, or, thousands of years ago based on, his sort of settings ability to preserve him. And so at that point, I sort of had a conversation with my dad and talked about the idea of anthropology, and I had no idea really what I wanted to do in college or life after skating, and I think that's pretty typical of an
everybody,
athlete, especially when you have a goal and you have a dream that you're so focused on, it's hard to think beyond that. And so, while I was focused on skating, my dad just said, well, why don't you just major in college with what you're passionate about, what you're interested in? If you love these National Geographic sort of anthropologically focused articles, just go for that. And so, here I am, 32 years old. I'm like 6 months away from graduating with my undergrad finally, after a very slow and steady pace while I've been competing and traveling. So yeah, that's sort of how my journey with anthropology came about.
You can go ahead and say it. Go blue.
Go blue. Yes, right. I am a 13-year undergraduate student at the University of Michigan.
I'm going to leave that alone.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, you've had good reasons for taking so long.
Yeah. I'm not sensitive about it at all. It was a very conscious choice to, focus on pursuing my dreams on the ice, whether it was Olympics or following our last Olympic Games in 2014, pursuing a professional career and traveling the world there and going on tours and doing what I love and getting to see the world while I was doing it. I mean, it's hard to have, ill will towards a lengthy collegiate career when I've had so many other great opportunities.
But you brought up two things that was really interesting. I remember being, I think, in middle school, maybe a freshman, when I went and saw the King Tutankhamun exhibit. It was traveling around the country.
Yep.
And I was like, and it just blew me away that sarcophagus was, hidden for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was, and then so you're looking at the pieces in front of you. And it's kind of maybe similar to how you had the bog experience.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where my curiosity came. That's good. I'm like, whoa, hold on.
I'm glad I could open up that sort of window. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a cool memory.
I'm always like, you were a very focused and determined competitive skater.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were traveling, were you still able to enjoy where you were going to, or were you just so focused on the task at hand? But now you're a professional, so maybe you can enjoy it maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I definitely enjoyed my travels in a lot of different ways. I mean, even though I wasn't always able to spend, days at a time visiting the countries that I went to, oftentimes it was, sort of like a hotel and then a rink and a hotel and a rink. And we didn't spend a lot of time doing the traditional sort of sightseeing adventures. But over the years, my mom actually retired early from being a school teacher in order to travel with me because, I was traveling around the world at like 14, 15, 16, and she and my dad decided they didn't want me traveling alone, which I appreciate.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so my mom and Charlie's mom, who also came, Charlie's my skating partner, made a conscious decision to really try to help us facilitate performing our best while we were there, but also use it as an educational opportunity to see the world. And so, for example, we went to a competition in, I guess this one was in Ljubljana, Slovenia, which was just such an incredible experience. And then following the competition, our moms took us to Venice, Italy, for 2 days, following the competition before we headed home, back to school, back to training, just because we were, a short train ride away. And just that perspective that they had and the insight and the sort of what they did in terms of giving us those opportunities to not just travel for skating, but to really see more of the world as a result of these already awesome opportunities. Sure. I think just really opened up our eyes and for example, a competition in Moscow, maybe one afternoon we went and saw Red Square and, got to do a couple things, try new food, and it wasn't always a vacation, of course. But now that I am a professional, I tend to see a lot more. If my legs are like a little bit tired for a show, it's not the end of the world. Whereas if my legs are tired for competition, that was problematic.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, congratulations on being a newlywed.
Thank you.
So one of the questions I always ask my guests is, how do you balance all the travel and then friends, family, loved ones?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the travel was almost a secondary obstacle, but training for, elite level competition, you just sort of have to buckle in and just accept what comes along with that lifestyle, I think. And right. I kind of accepted that at a young age. And, at some point it was, skipping sleepovers because I had to, with my friends because I had to, skate early the next morning or missing birthday parties or like field trips to school or whatever it was. And I just was always okay with that. I always loved skating so much. And then it came to, spending time with family and friends and missing things sometimes with the people who are important in my life. Or, I'm on a tour for a couple weeks in Japan and I miss one of my best friend's weddings. And
exactly.
Unfortunately, that's just kind of the life that I live at this point, and I love what I do, and I think there's always some sort of compromise that you have to make, and luckily, whether it's my now husband, my family, my best friends, they're all incredibly supportive, and they understand my lifestyle, and my husband in particular is a former figure skater himself, and so he certainly understands, not just the day-to-day, but also the touring. When I'm in Japan for a month in the summer, he totally understands, what I'm doing and why I need to be there, and that's very helpful for a happy and healthy, not just relationship, but life in general.
Yeah, I was going to say that's for me. I found a lot of the people I talk to, including myself, I'm the same way. I've missed my daughter's lacrosse games. I've missed, but I try to miss the ones that I know they're kind of going to win and try and go to the good ones, But, you definitely miss things, but then I try to overcompensate maybe when I come home. Like when I'm home every week, my wife and I, we have to have a date night. So that way,
I think that's a great idea.
We don't go a couple weeks and all of a sudden I'm on the road for, 10 days and I come home and I'm tired from being on the road. I really don't feel like going out, but I have to because it's not fair to her. We make the time.
Scheduling, I think, especially when your schedule is so irregular.
Yeah.
I think, getting those things penciled in and making sure you see those people when you can, I think is really important.
Agreed. What do you, when you're traveling, and you're doing some long flights, China, Japan, what do you listen to when you're on the road? Did you listen to podcasts? Did you listen to music, movies, read books?
Yeah, over the years, it was oftentimes like attempting to do schoolwork while I was traveling.
I was going to say, yeah.
That was, really challenging, and I'm only really ever able to make that work when it's totally pressing and something is due. Otherwise, I find it really hard to focus. I love watching movies on planes. It's just like what a great little, sometimes it's a couple hours, sometimes it's a 13-hour trip, but just sitting there plugging in and just enjoying some good old-fashioned, not so old-fashioned entertainment is a lot of fun. I recently started doing books on tape, which is, I'm definitely late to the game there, but it's been a little bit more productive, There are only so many movies and TV shows you can watch, so right now
it's a tough balance, yeah.
Yeah, so right now I'm listening to Sapiens on books on tape. So that's been really good. And, as we discussed as an anthropology major, it was kind of crazy that I hadn't read that yet. So it's been a great listen so far.
Well, that's awesome. How much traveling are you doing now? I know I saw you were just in Japan.
Yeah.
You're in Michigan, LA. Oh, and by the way, congrats on being a runway model.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't think being a professional runway model is in my future, but it was a great little adventure. I got to be a part of this really wonderful fashion for good sort of gala with an organization called Laureus that just does wonderful work. And so they support grassroots organizations across the world, but I was working specifically with Laureus USA, so they support organizations across the United States that use sport as an educational tool for young people. And it's all different kinds of organizations, all different sports, all over the country, and yet the common thread is using sport just as this wonderful sort of tool to help young people. So it's
a good tie-in.
Organization, yeah.
It was for New York Fashion Week, right?
Yes, it was during New York Fashion Week, and the athletes were walking in the show, which was a lot of fun. And it's just fun. I have no plans of pursuing the modeling world.
We don't see too many 5'3" runway models.
No, not too many at beginning my career at 32 at 5'3". I don't think that's my calling.
So I have another past guest that was an NFL football player who was there for modeling. He models, and
okay, great.
So he was just there, and then I saw yours. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't get to go to that. I get to go to all the Western shows.
Oh, that sounds fun too.
Yeah, I'll be at the rodeo in Vegas, and
nice.
We do that for 2 weeks. It's 10 days long.
Oh, that sounds fun. I've never been to a rodeo before.
Oh, you're kidding?
No.
Well, we will have to set that up somehow.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I'll even get you some boots.
Hey, I'm down. I'm down for cowboy boots.
Yeah, I was gonna say women in shoes. No problem. When you're traveling, do you have any go-to apps?
Yeah,
as far as booking hotels, planes,
Well, usually when I'm traveling, I am traveling for work, and so flights, hotels are usually organized by whomever's taking me on the trip.
Right.
Yeah, but I actually use Instagram a lot, surprisingly, to find restaurants and different places that I want to see in certain areas. It's a lot of fun. You can sort of see on the app where a lot of activity is taking place in the region that you're in. And so, popular restaurants or parks, stores, things like that. And then I just use Google Maps, and I sort of read reviews of different restaurants and what people are saying, and is the atmosphere sort of authentic and organic, and is it a good way to try this country's traditional food, things like that. So yeah, I would say Instagram and Google Maps.
And the maps, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because my wife and my wife's a skater, but we've been roller skating for about a year now.
So fun.
And so we want to go to Japan next year, and she wants to take our skates. So she's reaching out to the skating community in Japan, seeing if it's okay and where to go and what not to, because we don't want to do things you're not supposed to do. But yeah, she wants to roller skate around Japan.
Oh my gosh, how fun. I can't, I have spent a great deal of time in Japan. I can't say I've ever seen anyone roller skating or rollerblading. So unfortunately, I couldn't give you any tips there. But if you do want any travel tips for Japan other than that, let me know, because I'm happy to send you a list.
Oh, I might have to hit you out because my wife, she literally went out and bought a book, Japanese language book for basic words. I already have I actually use an app when I work at the rodeos, especially in Vegas. We get people from South America to Europe to Australia that come just for the rodeo. Wow. They don't always speak English, so I bought a translation app on my phone. So if they speak Portuguese, if they're from Brazil, or if they're speaking Spanish, I can have them talk into my phone, then it translates into English. And I can
I know. It's amazing what technology does. But yeah, I think that's actually a great just generic travel tip for anyone who may not be a seasoned traveler is, these days it's very difficult to be somewhere and not find someone who speaks English. And so it's pretty easy to get around unless you're going to a really remote place.
Yeah.
And yet I find that even if you speak like 1, 2, 3 words and just make an effort in whatever, you know, the language of whatever country you're in, it tends to open people up a lot and make them more receptive to being helpful and just appreciative of your effort. You don't have to speak the language, but
right.
just showing that you know, are open to
learning their ways, not just
Yeah, because I think so often, you know, we rely on our own language, and like I said, people do so often speak English. I just think it's a nice thing to be able to show them that, you know, we're making an effort for them as well.
Totally agree. Like I said, I truly appreciate the time. What's the best way for my listeners to follow you? Is it Instagram, sounds like?
Yeah, probably Instagram. My handle is MERYL, Meryl E. Davis.
I will.
Yeah, my Instagram handle is Meryl E. Davis, so at Meryl E. Davis on Instagram. And I'm pretty active on Instagram, and that's probably the easiest way to follow along on my adventures.
Any other advice you have for travelers, people that are traveling out there?
I think it's really important to have a basic understanding of what is acceptable in whatever region of the world that you're in. You know, perhaps this is like my the anthropologically, you know, fascinated sort of part of me coming out, but I think it's so easy to judge people and the way that they live based on
what you're used to,
what we're used to, and our experiences and understanding, and yet, you know, understanding that they live differently and accepting that and appreciating that and taking that into account when we're in their country and in their cities, I think is a really important thing. As we're traveling, you know, how do you interact with a waiter, you know, when you're at a restaurant in a different country? In Japan, I actually found, just as an example, oftentimes the people working in the store, when you walk into a store, will say something to you. And I found out that when you don't respond to them, it's considered rude.
Right.
And so, and I'm sure they're understanding if you don't speak Japanese. And yet, I think just as an American, that's something that we just don't really necessarily think about all the time. And so just little things like that to try to, you know, be an appreciative guest in people's homes and other countries, I think it's just important. And I think it just makes for a much more enjoyable experience as a traveler as well.
Totally agree. You know, I love having similar. I spoke with 2 weeks ago. I had a National Geographic travel writer on the show, and he said being nice is the best upgrade tool you can get. Yeah,
totally. That was always my dream job, as a National Geographic travel writer.
That's what he's doing.
So cool.
He's in He's in Colorado right now. Then he's going to Utah, to Zion National Park. Then a month in Central California, where I'm going to try and meet up with him when he's over here. And then he just keeps going. Spends a month, writes about it, travels.
Well, if you guys need a figure skater, you know, third wheel, let me know. I'd love to join.
Exactly. That's why I told him. I said, because he's going to San Luis Obispo. And he's going to spend a month in the Morro Bay and Hearst Castle. It's all up there.
Beautiful, yeah.
I said, hit me up, because that's part of my territory. So I travel all through that area just for work.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, how cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fun.
Amazing. So cool.
Well, have fun while you're in LA. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and good luck with all your travels.
And you as well. Good luck with being retired.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely retired from competition, but
still working.
Not living that retired lifestyle just yet. So
a little too young for that.
A little young, yeah, just a little bit young. But anyway, well, thank you so much. It was so nice to connect with you.
Yeah.
And let's definitely meet up at a rodeo or you know, something. Meet up with a Nat Geo travel writer with all sorts of awesome things.
If you really want to go to a rodeo, I'll make that happen.
I would love to. I think that sounds amazing.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Meryl.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.
And
Have a
say
good
hi to
weekend.
your wife. Bye.
I will. Bye-bye.